Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into an absolutely massive project that is literally reshaping trade and industry along one of the world's busiest maritime corridors. We're talking about the Horn of Africa, and specifically the Berbera Economic Zone. Often called the BEZ, this hyper-ambitious initiative works hand-in-hand with the newly modernized port of Berbera. Honestly, if you want to understand how global logistics are shifting right now, this is exactly where we need to look.
But before we start mapping out Berbera's master plan, let's quickly frame what an economic zone actually is. Think of it as a designated, specialized geographical area that's hardwired with very specific regulation and tax incentives. Its entire purpose is to act like a giant magnet for business. It's the essential pairing for a bustling seaport, acting as the commercial engine that takes raw shipping capacity and turns it into real, undeniable economic gravity.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The Gateway Opportunity, linking coastline to inland demand.
To really wrap your head around the sheer scale of the Berbera Economic Zone, you just have to look at the numbers. The master plan covers over 1,200 hectares. That's roughly 12 square kilometers. To put that into perspective, that's like dropping 1,700 soccer pitches right next to each other, entirely dedicated to logistics and industrial space. But what's absolutely crucial here is the location. The zone sits exactly 15 kilometers from the port, perfectly positioned along the Berbera-Wajale road corridor. This essentially creates a direct pipeline connecting coastal shipping lanes to the massive inland demand flowing along Ethiopia's trade routes. It literally takes a coastal advantage and turns it into a booming landlocked opportunity. And with 1,200 hectares to play with, there is plenty of room to expand as that trade demand just keeps surging.
Moving right along to Section 2, inside the master plan, the physical foundation.
So what are they actually building out there? When we look at the tangible Phase 1 infrastructure that's available right now, we aren't just talking about empty patches of dirt. We're looking at fully serviced land plots ready for companies to come in and build custom facilities. There's also 10,000 square meters of pre-built warehousing ready to go from day one, alongside massive open yard storage areas. Throw in modern, IT-equipped office spaces and a specialized common user warehouse designed specifically for smooth cargo handling, and you've got a seriously robust physical foundation for basically any business. But here's the thing. The infrastructure is only half the story. The real genius here is the ecosystem approach. You see, the port and the economic zone don't just sit next to each other. They operate together as a single living circulatory system. It works like this. A company imports their raw inputs via the port. They store those goods locally right there in the zone. Then they add value by assembling or processing those materials on site. Finally, they export the finished, higher-value goods back out through that exact same integrated logistics chain. It is just beautifully efficient.
Which brings us to Section 3, the integrated ecosystem, the rules of the game. For an economic zone to really thrive, the legal and regulatory framework has to be a total slam dunk for investors. DP World, working alongside those newly created special economic zone laws, has put together a package that's hard to ignore. We're talking 0% corporate tax, duty-free storage of goods until they actually hit the local market. Investors get 100% foreign ownership of their operations, no mandatory local partnerships required. And honestly, maybe the best part is the centralized one-stop shop. This means business formation, licensing, permits, the whole shebang is handled through one single channel. It completely removes the massive headache of bouncing between a dozen disconnected government offices.
All right, let's get into Section 4, measuring the real impact. Because, as we all know, time is money.
The modernization of the port of Berbera didn't just look good on paper. It delivered massive real-world results. Just look at the container throughput capacity. It absolutely skyrocketed. Before the upgrade, the port was hovering right around 150,000 TEUs. After the dust settled, that capacity jumped to a staggering 500,000 TEUs. This colossal leap in capacity is the beating heart that powers the entire port and zone model we've been talking about.
Now, what's really interesting about this metric is how that sheer capacity translates directly into raw speed. Vessel turnaround times, which is just the amount of time a ship spends sitting in port loading and unloading, fell from 64 hours back in 2018 all the way down to just about 25 hours in 2024. That is a night and day difference in port economics. For shipping lines, importers, and exporters, time literally is money. Every single hour a ship sits idle is a direct hit to profitability. Cutting that wait time by more than half, that's an absolute game changer.
And we can actually quantify exactly what that saved time means in hard dollars and cents. According to an independent evaluation, the estimated transport cost savings for port users hit an incredibly impressive $8.4 million in 2024. And get this, even when you adjust those numbers to account for the flood of new users attracted by the expanded port, it still nets out to an incredible $6.9 million in pure savings. Faster logistics directly lower the cost of doing business, period.
But wait, there is a completely unexpected environmental benefit here too. When massive cargo ships aren't idling for days on end and heavy trucks aren't stuck in endless queues, emissions absolutely plummet. These operational improvements and routing efficiencies at Berbera have led to an estimated reduction of over 7,600 tons of carbon emissions per year. For anyone studying modern supply chains, it's basically the perfect example of how streamlining global logistics can be a massive win for both the economy and the planet at the exact same time.
With those kinds of cost savings and lightning-fast turnarounds, the zone becomes a magnet for some very specific sectors. It's absolutely ideal for businesses that thrive on being right next to shipping lanes with accelerated customs. We're looking at food processing and packaging, broad consumer goods distribution, heavy-hitting logistics and freight services, and light industrial operations. Basically, if you're a company targeting the rapidly expanding regional markets in the Horn of Africa, this setup is tailor-made for you.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole concept playing out in the real world. Take IFFco, for example, a massive UAE-based food producer. They signed a long-term lease to become one of the prime tenants right inside the Berbera Economic Zone. They're currently developing a colossal 300,000 square foot edible oil packing facility on site. So this isn't just theory anymore. Major international manufacturers are already moving in, proving for sure that this integrated logistics chain is incredibly attractive to global capital.
But when international businesses move in, local communities completely transform. Beyond the corporate balance sheets, there is a deeply tangible human impact here. The upgraded port, combined with the Berbera Economic Zone ecosystem, is estimated to have supported around 2,490 jobs in 2024 alone. We are talking about real, steady livelihoods being created by shifting a region from being just a simple transit route into a thriving, value-adding hub of commercial activity. And naturally, those jobs translate directly into broader economic growth. The estimated value added to the local economy in 2024 sits at roughly $45.1 million. And keep in mind, this is happening while the zone is still actively expanding. For anyone watching global trade, this is proof that the ecosystem is producing highly positive, measurable outcomes right out of the gate. It's laying down a rock-solid financial foundation for all the future phases of the master plan.
Which takes us to our final part, Section 5, the big picture. What makes zones actually succeed?
Because, let's be real, simply throwing a fence around 1,200 hectares and offering some tax breaks is not going to cut it. Long-term success requires a few critical elements to perfectly align. You absolutely need reliable power and water infrastructure. You've got to have transparent administrative systems. Transport has to be highly predictable. And above all else, investors need consistent rules that they can trust aren't going to suddenly change overnight. It's the relentless execution of these exact foundations that the Berbera Economic Zone is heavily emphasizing.
And that leads us perfectly to the core philosophy driving this entire mega project. The ultimate goal isn't to just be a pit stop. It's to shift Berbera from a simple point of entry into a place where goods are actively stored, transformed, and re-exported. As the source material so perfectly states, the mission is not just moving cargo, but building an economy around cargo. It's all about capturing that value add locally rather than just standing on the shore watching the ships pass by.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. We've seen firsthand how linking a modernized high-capacity port directly to a tax-advantaged, well-regulated industrial zone can slash wait times, drastically cut carbon emissions, and inject tens of millions of dollars right into a local economy. As global supply chains desperately look for more efficient and resilient pathways, is this integrated port and zone model the ultimate blueprint for the future of global trade? It's a fascinating question, and honestly, watching the Berbera Economic Zone evolve is undoubtedly going to give us the answer. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep learning.